greatly enriched their lives. Thank you. Writing a single page for an assessment and review of a 92-year-long life is not easy and can never do justice to the accomplishments of a lifetime. I know that we're all grieving today because of George's passing, but I know he had every reason to be happy and proud of what he left behind. He was a good father, grandfather, and a dear friend to each and every one of us here today. I'm sure my father touched the life of everyone here today in some way, and everyone had their own special moments to remember. Whenever I visited Dad, he was always interested in what was going on in my life, and he always wanted to know how the crops were doing. We had a special relationship. I was his favorite son. George was a dedicated family man, and with my mother, was able to raise 6 children on a poor dirt farm and put them all through college. Anyone married for 68 years to my mother had to be dedicated. George was a religious man, active in church functions, belonged to the Holy Name Society at St. Jesus, and was a member of the Knights of Columbus. I'd like to think a little of that religious fervor rubbed off on me. One of my memories from the farm as a working child was milking cows in the barn had a dish on one end. Each section had its own light switch. It rarely failed that the lights were shut off in the main section of the barn before the milking was done in the second one, so that all that electricity could be saved. There was also a big difference in what could be considered music, with the radio station being changed frequently. Bale string and wire could repair almost anything on the farm. His strong will was still evident even in his last years. After his car burned, he was obsessed with getting another car, even though he could not feel his feet. My sister asked him, well, what would you do if a squirrel would run out in front of you? He replied, well, I'll run him over. He did manage to buy that car. He was 90 years old. He asked my cousin Jim to take him to look at a car. Well, when they arrived, he pulled out a wad of cash and began their negotiating purchase. Jim said when George drove the car back, it seemed like one of the happiest days of his life, and a final victory for him. That was the first and last day he drove a car. He, like my mother, was spared the heartache of losing a child and is only without a spouse for 8 days. After my mother passed, he was greatly relieved. He knew he no longer had to be around to take care of her. Even though he is no longer with us, we still have the memorable times we shared with him. He will always have a place in our hearts. Let's just be thankful for the privilege we had to share our lives with this very special man, George Gerhardt.